Hello fellow shedders, we're back in Shoestring Shed. Today I'm going to attempt to do some plastic welding on ZX10 panel, which is this. Now I've got the other camera set up there. I don't know how well it's going to work out. And we're going to be using some of this, which is model sprue. And I don't know about you, but I quite like to make a little model over the winter, especially during this lockdown that we've just had. It you know, when you can't get out on your own bike or there's nothing to do on your own bike, it's great. And we're going to be using this as well, which is a battery operated soldering iron, and we'll just see how that goes. So we'll get on with it. So what I'll do, I'll put you on the other camera and hopefully you'll be able to see what's going on. In fact, I might set this one on the opposite side, and then we've got a chance of my hands not getting in the way. Right, so this is by Silverline, and it uses 3 AA batteries, and it's supposed to have an hour's continuous use, which of course you won't be using. But the way you operate it, move the switch forwards, operate the button, and then it'll warm up. And the idea is, I'm just gonna see if I can just melt a bit. Somebody's already had a go at this and it's not taken, obviously. Is just to see if we can just sort of tack this on at the moment and then start introducing the sprue. You know, if it works, it works. If not, we'll probably use a standard soldering iron or something like that. Or what we'll do is we'll put a bit of sheet steel in here and some chicken wire, sticky back plastic, cardboard tubing, pop rivets, and we'll do it that way, like somebody else does. Anyway, let's get this warmed up. Now this will only warm up when you're holding the trigger, which, you know, for wiring jobs and stuff is fine, but for this it may be just a bit fiddly, and I just might revert to a normal soldering iron, but we'll see how we go on. Let's just test it a little bit first. I can smell it's warming up. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, it's getting hot. It's got a little bit of I already tinned the tip because I did some wiring the other day, but it's going, look. See that? Oh well, you'll see that. There you go. So it goes through it all right. Nice. So let's just see if we can just initially melt this. Yeah, it's good enough to melt. Not even sure how you do this, to be honest. Whether you sort of use this as like a filler rod, in which case keeping the iron to it. There we go. I'm going to make a cock of it anyway because I can't weld, so I've got no idea about the technique or anything. That's just done a little bit there. Going to need some cleaning up, I know that much. I bet back from the workshops having a hot gig like this. I don't know whether he's tried plastic welding. I'll have to have a look at his videos and see, because he will do it properly. Right, I might just have to just turn that round now. We'll clean all this up, just let that cool for a minute, and turn it round so we can get round to the back end. I'll just put out of the camera there, hopefully you can see and it doesn't obstruct the other one. Right, you're having a laugh. Let's go. It's a bit fiddly to use this, because naturally a normal soldering iron is on all the while, and you actually have to physically hold this one on, so it's a bit fiddly. So it'll be fine for wiring. See if we can get just anything going there. Melted fiberglass, great. I would advise that you wear a mask for this, guys. I'm not, because I'm a moron, as you probably already know. I'm not bothered. Seems to work quite well if you just put the end of the sprue on the soldering iron and then slide it off the end, he said. I suppose you could even lie a bit of sprue. I suppose the best way to do it would be to V the crack and then, you know, fill it as you go. Doing something. And the rod's definitely going somewhere, but my luck, not where I want it. Let's go. Let's just pull that off. Yeah, it's starting to set now. Look. We've all melted plastic sprue in our youth, I'm sure. I seem to have got it. Cool. Right. I'll put my little snips down somewhere. I would like you all to note that I did tidy the bench for you, which, you know, I nearly had a heart attack when I found half the stuff I've got, but there you go. Oh, here they are, hiding under the phone. Oh, somebody's going along the top road on a 4-cylinder, and I can tell you now, they ain't doing 50 miles an hour. And you'd think with the current travel restrictions, etc., people would be a bit more careful about twatting it round a village. But there you go, we can't account for everybody. And he's probably got a big smile on his face. Right, just tidy this up a bit. I mean, I'm not overly bothered what it's going to look like, because all this can be tarted and farted about with later. But that, as you can see, really rough-ass job. In fact, if I probably run the soldering iron along here again and just get this melting better, it'll probably get it to flow. Ideally, I'd like to get some inside as well. But obviously somebody's tried fiberglass in it, it didn't work. I had to clean up some traces of epoxy, and that hadn't worked. But that is pretty solid, so I'm quite happy with that. But obviously practice makes perfect, so I will give it another go, because ideally there is a little gap at the back here which I'd like to get in, but obviously it's sort of the width of the iron as well. But I think that seems to be the best method, is to just literally melt it and push it off the end into where you need to go. So, well, we'll see how that goes, eh? I want to turn this one off now. And this is where we are on the old girl at the minute. Foot peg thing's back on. Obviously it's all still looking a bit rough-arsed, because I like it, because it annoys people. But you know, mechanically she's going to be fine. But one job I've got to do before she goes down the road, that is a replacement second-hand rotor, because the discs actually were prone to cracking. Obviously it's a big heavy bike, it's a fast bike, people are a bit heavy on the brakes, so they do go through rotors, which is fair enough. So I've got to take these bolts out, thread lock them and re-torque them. That will be done before it goes anywhere, and I've got to torque the sprocket nuts as well. But that's back on. This is mounted. Start solenoid is mounted. There's a little fluid drain that needs to be bolted there. That's going to be fun, because I've already covered one of the bolt holes up. And then obviously tank's got to come off again at some point to remove this plastic shroud here, because we're going to fit a new thermostat. I've got Carl coming round tomorrow with some shopping for me, which is very good of him, and he's going to take a look at the exhaust. And what we're thinking of doing is, that metal actually, even though it looks piss poor to there, what we'll probably do is probably going to cut it and just put a bit of piping there and just replace these sections, just so we can get it on the road. And then if Craig wants to go at it at a later date, or we end up putting a replacement sort of Marvin system on it or something like that, that's probably the way we're going to have to go anyway. As you can see, there's the clocks, 180 miles an hour, which, bear in mind, when this bike was designed, was a bit like landing the space shuttle in your front lawn. It is a great sounding bike, but obviously no exhaust on it at the minute, so we're not starting it, because we do get on with our neighbours. But yeah, front end's got to come off for an inspection, and there's a little bit of surface rust on the the radiator of much coolingness. That, by the way, quick warning, aftermarket radiator fan switch, because the other one was stuck on. This one has come brand new, and it's an open circuit. It should be a closed circuit that opens. Obviously it should have like a wax switch inside. That's permanently on, so I'm just going to bite the bullet, get the proper Kawasaki one, because I've replaced the temperature sensor in the thermostat housing with a proper Quacker one, because aftermarket stuff like that I find is a bit of a gamble, and they're very, very lucky dip. If anybody has got this cover that goes on here, Craig might still have it actually, because we're pretty certain we haven't found all the parts that came with the bike. Phil was extremely generous, and there was a new battery, there was a chain and sprocket, a brand new chain and sprocket kit, stuff like that. So that's all been fitted. There were new spark plugs, they've gone in, you know, stuff like that. So it'll get there. It will not be the world's tidiest bike, because that's not the aim of it. The aim of it is to get on it and use it. Simple as. You know, some of you might be absolutely paranoid if you get the slightest scratch or a bit of muck on your bikes. I'm not like that, and I'm sure many of you aren't actually. But yeah, so back onto this model sprue. Who knew? But yeah, that, I don't want to push it too hard obviously, but that's pretty solid. I'm quite happy with that. I'm gonna work at it a bit more and just see if I can get the model sprue to flow a bit better. But great memories with models. I can remember as a kid my dad would buy me the most awesome air fixes and stuff on his way home from work. There used to be a really brilliant newsagent that had a great selection of toys and models, and for birthdays and stuff like that, or just occasionally, he'd buy like a big model kit, like a Hercules transport or something like that. And the next morning, so I'd come down on a Saturday morning, and it would be there on the dining room table, made, painted, all the decals on, ready to play with. And I'll never ever forget that about my dad. Because he loved stuff like that. He loved you know, model cars, stuff like that. So that, yeah, brings back good memories doing a model kit. So I think that will do for now. I'm working on a little introductory video for Carl and his Discovery, and he had to film it in his drive at the time. There is a little bit of wind noise and what have you, but that'll be a little separate video, literally a couple of minutes, just introducing Carl. And we might do a little bit of filming tomorrow, socially distanced of course, over a refreshingly lovely brew. Of course, see, I work with Carl all the time. He's a test driver as well. He is the good looking one out of the group, so it'll be a chance for you guys to meet him as well, because we will be doing any mechanical jobs on the cars and stuff. We'll be doing with Carl, because he is a time served mechanic, but also he wants to learn more about motorcycles. And the aim is, we're thinking, if the channel gets a bit more popular, we'll start a Patreon and stuff like that, because the aim is get Carl through his bike test, and I think that'll be a good journey to follow. And his dream bike is a GSXR 600 SRAD, which, yeah, not a bad bike. I've had GSXRs and they're absolutely bonkers bits of kit, but beautiful. The 1980s ones. I had a black and red 750, and I've had 1100s, I've had 711s, all sorts. They were just phenomenal bikes. I once got from my house, which is actually closer to the Warwickshire border than it is anything else, to the bike dealer that used to be in at Peterborough. I think it used to be called Carnell's. It's now called something, I think it could be Ling's Yamaha now. I've not been for decades. I got there in 45 minutes on a GSXR 750, which is just, the brain must have been in a jar, because there's no way I could do it again, and I wouldn't do it again. But yeah, the joys of motorcycles. But it's funny, what amuses me is bikes like this, you know, were sports bikes in their days. Now they're very much sports tourers. You know, I wouldn't call it a sports bike. I wouldn't have called it a sports bike when it was new, because obviously they had the ZXRs and the FZRs and stuff like that. But I'm going to be doing like a little advice video on bike tyres and stuff like that as well, because obviously as a test rider we get to test lots of different brands on lots of different machines basically, and a lot of brands I wouldn't have even looked at. They quite surprised me with how good they were, how good they felt. A lot of people, just as like an insight to the video I'll do, a lot of people put the wrong tyres on their bikes because it is psychological. If you think you're going to put a really sticky tyre on a commuter bike, a lot of that is psychological, because you've got it in the back of your head you won't lose control, or you'll have extra grip where you need it. And in, I'd say, a good 90% of the cases, you're throwing money in the bin that could go on beer, kebabs, pornography, power tools, dog food, or anything like that. And it is we are human after all. So if somebody says to us, oh, you want to fit these tyres because they're really gripping, all this lot, we naturally listen to them. But they may not suit your bike, and half the time you'll be throwing money away. But I will do a video on that. So anyway guys, I think that's it for now. And I'll just put the little short video out tomorrow with Uncle Carl on it, so you can all meet him. So for now, I'm going to do a hub nut outro. So you ready? So thanks for watching this, guys. It's very much appreciated. If you've enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and let us know if you'd like to see a Patreon. We've already got t-shirts and stuff up on Teespring, and there'll be another one on Redbubble soon, so just let us know. And for that, guys, have a brilliant weekend, and we'll see you in another video. Hubnut outro. It's a Sign Springs here.